welcome back to my channel where I bring you mermaid related content to help you guys live life so mermaid. And today I'm going to be giving you a bit of a tutorial video on how to do a couple of really popular mermaid tricks underwater. So in this video we're going to cover a couple of things. We're going to cover backflips, front flips, bubble rings, and off-the-wall turns. There are a lot of variations when it comes to doing a mermaid backflip. You can do it stationary, where you are just in the water and go straight into the backflip. You can do it when you're already underwater. You could be swimming, flip into it. It's great for a change of direction. If you're swimming along at the surface level, you want to come down into a shot, you know, somebody's filming you, you could be swimming, you do your backflip and then you come around, and it's just a nice way to change direction. There are a lot of uses for it, and it's also just kind of fun to do, and it looks really pretty, and it's just a really popular move that a lot of mermaids like to have in their sort of move roster, if you will. Arms become really important when you're doing a backflip. I have some back issues slash neck issues, so I'm not actually able to extend my arms in a certain way that other mermaids are able to, which is why you'll often see that my hands are kind of stuck like this at one point or like that at one point. I don't have a more graceful way to do it, unfortunately, but I've got physical limitations. So I bring that up just because if you aren't able to do it just like all the other mermaids do it, it does not mean that it's wrong. It's just your way of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you struggle with it a little bit, it could just be practice, or if you're like me and you have some physical limitations, like, it's not the end of the world. Like, I used to beat myself up over it, but I still do a really nice backflip. So I feel like, you know what? It's just the way that I'm built, and that's just life. Now, so far as actually doing the backflip, you're gonna want to build up some level of momentum. So as I said, whether you're starting at the surface or you're already in the water, or you're stationary, it's gonna be important to have the initial movement where you're kind of throwing yourself back into this movement. So for me, typically I don't do them just stationary. I like to have a little bit of some kind of, even if I slow down, just to have some kind of a movement into the situation, then I'll roll and then flip. It can be a little bit spooky at first if you haven't done them before, and if you aren't wearing earplugs, you are probably gonna get water in your ears, and you will get water up your nose, so make sure that you exhale as you're going around. So as soon as your head goes under, you have like a second before water's just gonna right up your nose, okay? So you have enough air to release and save a little bit so that you can swim out of it nicely, so you're not like gasping for air. And also be really, really aware, this is a deep end trick. Don't do this in shallow water. You will smack your head on the pavement, which I have done. I think it might actually be in a blooper video. Actually, it might not even be. I might have actually used it in a video, but I didn't say anything that it had happened, but I actually grazed the top of my head because I was stupid and did it in water that was just a bit too shallow. And also, depending on the monofin that you used, you may drop more suddenly. I noticed that mermaids who use the mahina, and when I've done it in the mahina, I noticed that the mahina floats, right? So it has some more, again, hang time, so it moves more slowly through the movement. So I don't find that my head drops really far down when I use the mahina. When I use the Luna sinks. If you put that in water, gone. Okay, so I actually do feel like I drop more, so I would not recommend this for water that you can actually stand in. You might end up cracking your head really good, and that's not good. Now, a lot of the areas where I find it difficult, because I have the chronic leg and knee and foot pain, I do find that coming out of the turn is a little bit wonky for me. I feel more like I have to be careful. Depending on how stiff the blade is, you will feel some burning in the tops of your thighs because of how bent they are and the amount of force and pressure getting pulled on your feet. So it is a move that does inspire the odd leg cramp slash foot cramp slash calf cramp. It's really good. So just be aware, the slower you do it, the easier it is to not cramp. The more you're like forceful and like jam and push right through the movement, then you're more likely to have a discomfort in your legs when you're doing it. Now the variation that I mentioned, an off the wall turn, I believe I called it at the beginning of this video. I don't actually have a word for it. This is actually a trick. I take no credit for this trick. This is by the lovely Mermaid Echo. I saw her do this for the first time. I don't know if she's the creator of this move, but I fell in love with it. I saw it in one of her videos and she does it so gracefully. She swims up to the wall, she reaches out as she's flipping, touches the wall and pushes off, and suddenly she's in a different direction. And it is exquisite. So if you haven't checked out her channel, I will hopefully remember to leave a link up in the cards, and you should definitely go and check out her stuff because and she has some really choice tutorials on her channel as well. This trick is kind of like a variation of the backflip. It's not as powerful, I feel like, as a move, so it's not as scary or daunting to do, and you have the wall right there. The only thing that you kind of have to be aware of is where the wall is, and if you're doing this in a pool, like for example the pool that I was swimming in has no lights in the deep end, well, actually in any part of the pool now that I think about it. Putting a hand out to make sure that you're not going to smack right into the wall is also very important, because I have smacked into the wall too, and that feels really good. On a side note, I highly recommend for any flips, make sure you tie your hair back. I had one scary experience when I first started mermaiding where it had my hair down. I put it in a blooper video because I thought it was funny after the fact, but it was actually really scary when it happened. As I flipped, my hair came over my face, and as I surfaced, I didn't have enough air to just keep swimming so my hair would have fixed itself. As I surfaced, I couldn't get the hair off my face quickly, and it startled me just a little bit because it made breathing kind of hard. So if you're completely new to doing mermaid flips underwater, make sure that you braid your hair, tie it back, do something with it. Even if you just tie half of it back, that'll make a difference. Keep it in mind. But the off the wall flip or turn is a great one that will lead you into figure eights down the road, which I might choose to do a tutorial on that as well now that I'm finally getting better at it. Thank you, Mermaid Viosa, Mermaid Ripple, for your help. I very much appreciate it. But it's a fun one, and it's a really good one for changing direction. If you're coming up to the wall and you're like, oh, I'm kind of out of space, you reach out, you grab, you flip, you spin, and off you go. And the momentum is saved because you get a little bit of an extra oomph by pushing off of the wall. There's variations. You could walk down the wall, which again, I don't take credit for. I actually saw Mermaid Viosa do this once where she swam, did a partial flip, and then walked her hands down the wall. I thought it looked so awesome, and I had to try it. I did it just a little bit. I want to practice that a little bit more. But the trick, again, I find it's not the kind of thing you want to do at the surface level. Being underwater and having that momentum, so you're swimming, give yourself a couple of good kicks, and then reach, and then roll through the motion. So it does feel awkward at first, and you might flail around hopelessly for a bit. I mean, when I was first learning how to do this, I'm sure Kim, there's like so much footage that she got of me just my tail like flip-flapping all over the place. At one point my knees came like up out of the water and my fluke slapped the side of the pool, and it looked cool, I guess, but it wasn't the planned thing. So that takes a little bit of trial and error. So the spin for this one doesn't come from your hand. This does come from you just rolling your body and using your arms and just your weight and your ability to float naturally and using that to roll through the motion. The hand is literally just there as a guide so you don't hit the wall, and then to push you off so that you can continue your beautiful swim. Okay, now the next one is not actually a trick I can do. So the lovely Mermaid Kim helped me out with this one. This is kind of her move, and she's really good at it, and I'm terrible. I honestly, I can do front flips, but I have to be in a handstand, and then I just have to let myself fall over. I don't know why. I have a really hard time doing a front flip. I don't know if you guys are like that. If you are, leave me a comment and let me know so that I don't feel alone. But I feel like such a goofy mermaid every time I try to do a front flip. It's not a thing. So Mermaid Kim let me film her, and we kind of broke it down a little bit. She also gets a good amount of momentum before she goes into her flip. Watching her, you can see she comes up out of the water and then quickly rolls through the motion, and then lets just gravity and air just kind of pull her through, along with the use of her arms. And you can see she has a better rotation of her arms than I do. I'm quite jealous. Her arms are always doing something nice. My arms are always like little chicken wings, and her arms are always flowing nicely. Don't be hard on yourselves, guys. Don't be like me. It's all good. However you do it as long as you do it safely. Am I right? I'm right. And as with any trick, there is always the option for multiples or variations thereof. Kim likes to do a couple of front flips in a row. I don't know how she does it. I've seen her do 5 of them in a row and I'm like, hi. Nope. I'm not somebody who likes to do multiples. I get dizzy. Well, I have vertigo and you guys know that. It comes every once in a while. I'll have some issues. And I know that if I do too many flips in a row, I will have a problem. So if you're somebody like me and you have a tendency to be dizzy or a little bit vertigo, those are 2 different things, but you know, we'll just umbrella them in the same category for now. Just be aware when you're doing more than one, you can get a little bit dizzy in the water. And you can see how she powers through and uses the momentum and force of her arms and just how her body, the shape and the fin and everything kind of just slides through the water nicely to create that rolling movement. So thank you, Mermaid Kim. Huge shout out to you for letting me film you for that one because I feel bad. That's not something I know how to do or can't do properly. So if you guys are interested in checking out Mermaid Kim's channel, I will leave a link to her down below. She's also a very talented cosplayer and I will leave a link to her cosplay blog as well. You guys should check her out. She did an incredible Skull Kid cosplay. Guys, if you are even a little bit of a Zelda fan, you are going to need to see this. Okay, so check her out in the description box down below. Okay, now last but not least, bubble rings. Now, I'm a bit of a bubble ring snob and I have kind of theories about the different ways that you do bubble rings, and I don't particularly like the look when people stick their tongue out to create the bubble ring, and I don't feel like it's necessary, and I feel that's just me, okay? This is like, in no way am I trying to insult anybody or say that you're doing it wrong. If it works for you, it works for you, that's totally cool. It's just not a personal favorite way for me to do it. I've never been able to make that really work, and I found there's like a couple of ways that work and there's a couple of ways that don't. The principle behind creating a bubble ring is that you have air, and you're keeping the air closer to the front of your mouth, and when you push it out, it's like the force rolls the air, okay, so that's the air, and the force rolls the air, and the air then comes around and creates a bubble ring. Now, of course, I'm not a scientist, but this is how I see it happening when I'm watching it and I'm making these bubble rings. This is also gonna take some practice. Because bubble rings is a bit of an interesting one, you're holding your breath and you're, in a calculated way, letting out oxygen. Don't practice your bubble rings unsupervised. Make sure you have somebody with you and that you have clear signals that you're okay, that everything is good, that, you know, because you are holding your breath to do bubble rings. It's not, I mean, of course, with all the tricks you are, and you should never swim alone anyways, but just because a lot of people like to get really deep in the water to do bubble rings, it's just be a little bit cautious and a little bit aware of what you're doing. But the ring itself does not need to be formed necessarily with sticking out your tongue. So none of that. Like, you can do it, and if looking, I've got my laptop next to me, that's how I keep referring to it to make sure I'm saying these things right here. The way that I do it is like, the air is like right in here. You know what I mean? And you kind of force it out. Now it's weird doing, like, trying to pretend that I'm doing this in water. I'll give like a slow-mo to show you guys what I'm actually talking about. But it's more about the force and where the air is positioned in your mouth than it is about actually sticking your tongue out. Because I think what people are probably thinking with that is that your tongue is being stuck out and that's what's making the hole in the ring. And I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like I swallow way too much pool water and it's gross, and then I'm sticking my tongue out in the pool and it's like, I'm not a fan. No. So as with anything, practice makes perfect. Bubble rings are not the easiest thing to do, but once you figure it out, you'll start to get like a feel for it. So like, even if you're just making like just whatever bubbles, just keep trying, and make sure that you're taking breaks to recover as well, because you're holding your breath, you're letting it out little bit, little bit, little bit, you know what I mean? So make sure you're taking breaks. But it is something that will just happen. My mom was the one who taught me how to do bubble rings, and it was the kind of thing where she was just watching me underwater. This is like before we had cameras and before we were like filming and doing all these things. And she showed me how to do it, and I was like, okay, cool. And then so we were in not quite a super shallow area, but in an area where I could hold the railing for the stairs underwater, because at that point I still didn't know how to sink properly, which is a whole other video. And I remember nothing. Garbage bubbles, just blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I made one ring like this big, just one small ring, and I was like, ah, best day ever. So it's just like patience, and just keep trying, because it will come with time. But it's mostly, like I said, where the air is positioned should be further, like closer to your lips in the front of your mouth, not like okay? And then the force that you use to push it out of your mouth. All right, and if you are new to my channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button to join the pod, and the bell notification as well, so you never miss an upload. And if you don't want to say goodbye just yet, be sure to swim on over to patreonpod.com, our extended pod community. There are a number of different tiers, a little something for everyone, but all tiers include access to our Patreon-only Discord community chat, as well as our monthly patron-only live stream, which happens every month. It's an hour of my time, just me and the Patreon pod. So if that sounds good, be sure to swim on over to patreonpod.com. We would love to have you join us. And on that note, if you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And let me know in the comment section down below, what are your favorite mermaid tricks? Are you working on anything in particular? And are there any tricks you would like to see me cover in future videos? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Happy swimming. Bye.